The topic for today is variation. We will discuss what variations are, which are some of examples of variations in different species, and we will do some different exercises according to variations or different variations in humans, but not only, also in plants or animals. We learned in the previous lesson that individuals that have similar characteristics are grouped together into species or belong to the same species. But even though different individuals belong to the same species, within them there are some variations. So we all are humans, we all belong to the same species, but we are all different from each other. And today we'll discuss about these differences. In this other slide, you can see some individuals of domestic dogs. All domestic dogs belong to the same species, but as you can see from the picture, they are all different from each other. So they have different fur color, different fur type, different body shape or body size, or different eye shape or different ear shapes. But they all belong to the same species. The same with humans, as I said before, and as you can see in this picture, all individuals or all members of Homo sapiens or species which humans belong are different from each other, but they all belong to the same species. The question is, if they are different from each other, why do they belong to the same species? They are different from each other, but they have the characteristic that all species have, or all individuals that belong to the same species have. And which is this characteristic? This characteristic, and the most important one, is that if two individuals of the species of domestic dogs breed together, they produce fertile offspring. And this is the condition for being individuals of the same species, even though the different characteristics or different outer features that these individuals have. And these different characteristics are known as variations. So if we want to define variation, we can say that differences between individuals of the same species are called variations. If I ask you, at the example of domestic dogs, what can be a variation? Are the examples that I said before. For example, the body size is a variation because it's something that differs from one individual to another within the species of domestic dogs. If I ask you for variations in the other example of humans, what can be a variation within individuals that belong to this species? From what we can see from the picture, a variation can be, for example, the skin color or the eye color. We see that there are individuals with different eye color or different hair color or different face shape, we can say. All these are known as variations or differences within individuals of the same species. Okay, let's see another example. And this is also the example that is given in your book. And in this picture, we can see flowers, and all these flowers are from the same species, and the species is the species of daisy plant. If I ask you what characteristics do all of the flowers share, So because they have something in common or some similarities, even though the differences or variations. And the commons, for example, or the common characteristics within these individuals that belong to the same species are the color, for example, of the flower, or the shape of the flower. But what can be a difference within individuals of this species can be, for example, the number of petals or the size of the flower. All these are differences. So, from what we said until now, individuals that belong to the same species have some characteristics in common, as they have some characteristics in different from each other. But they all belong, even though these differences or similarities, they belong to the same species. And the condition for being part of the same species is the ability to reproduce and to produce fertile offspring. There are variations, but are all variations the same type, or from what are these variations affected? There are different variations, and the variations are grouped in different categories. But we will learn only some of these types of variations today. There are variations that are inherited from our parents. What can be some variations inherited from our parents? We said before that the eye color, for example, is a variation within individuals of the same species. And the eye color is a feature that is inherited. So it is passed on from the parents to us. And we can't decide our eye color. And this is known as an inherited variation, or is a variation related with the genes that we inherit from our parents. But there are also other variations that are not only related with the genes inherited or characteristics passed on from the parents to us, but are characteristics that are affected, or variations that are affected from the environment or from the conditions or outer conditions. What can be an example of variations affected by the environment? An example of variations affected by the environment is, for example, the size of apples in a tree. If we study the size of apples in a single apple tree, we can see that there are different fruits or apples with different sizes. And this variation is affected by the environment. Why is affected by the environment? Because it depends from the amount of light that different parts of the apple tree receive, or is related with other outer conditions like temperature, etc. And these are examples of variations that are affected by the environment. As there are examples of variations affected by genes and variations affected by the environment, there are also examples of variations that are affected by both. What does this mean? Skin color, for example, is an inherited variation that is also affected by the environment. So the skin color is something that we inherit from our parents, but our skin color, or we can get a tan by the time that we pass under the sun, for example. And this is one of the characteristics of variations that is related with both factors, so genes and environment. Okay. We have an activity that is activity 4.2, And in this activity, we should study the variations in humans. And as we can't do it with the members of our class, because we are not in the class for studying the variations in members of the class, you can do it with the members of your family. Activity 4.2, variation in humans. All humans belong to the same species, as we said, but none of us is identical with any other human. Even identical twins have small differences. Choose 4 or 5 features that vary among the members of your class. You can choose features that vary among the members of your family. Choose at least one feature that you have to measure. Then construct a result table like this, shown in this example. Change the headings to match the features that you have chosen. Draw enough rows so that you can record your result for at least 8 people. You can do it with less people as you are at home now. You have to write the name of the person or the number, and then if you choose another feature that is not hair color, write the feature that you have chosen, or the eye color, or the shoe size, or another feature that you want. they collect all the data and then complete this result table.